Welcome back to another episode of Business Journey Unlocked. I'm joined today by Sean Orchison, a micro mobility entrepreneur and the founder behind Breeze Mobility. Sean has several years of experience in micro EV fleet management and facilitating partnerships in the micro mobility space. Sean, welcome to the show. I'm going to shoot it over to you.
Great, thanks. I'm Sean Orchison, founder of Breeze Mobility. We started in August 2021, kind of initially, competing with like the limes and the birds. But you know, After a few months of running the fleets, I was like, yeah, like, this is not sustainable to do with a fleet size of 10 scooters. So kind of just, quickly pivoted to more of the fleet management service where we provide, um, fleet management service from rebalancing to battery swapping to charging, like the whole nine, like day to day operations for, companies like Bird and Lime. Instead of, competing with them, we ended up, kind of making them our client. And then it kind of
Mm,
just grew from there, kind of snagged up a bunch of different deals doing that. And then we kind of got wrapped up a bunch of different verticals. We got into the delivery space, worked with like a bunch of startups handling their deliveries. And then I worked with Amazon as well to handle their deliveries as well. And then kind of more and more things kept coming along. Then we got with these like car rental companies like handling their inventory. They don't want to handle maintenance, too much liability, too much headache for doing repairs. So just stuff to the inventory management, which is pretty fun, pretty great. Like prepping the car essentially for the rental. Making sure it's EV, make sure it's fully charged, clean, ready to go. It's where it's supposed to be. And then like kind of pivoted then to managing like parking lots for some operators, helping them with their like lot attendance, um, like kind of issuing notices, enforcement, that kind of stuff. And then most recently kind of got into the EV charger business where, we're helping one of our clients which we manage accounts for them and kind of handle like project management, the day-to-day operations for like post installation. And then also for like kind of the project management for like the pre-install and install phases as well, where we kind of act as liaison between like the office and like the site host essentially, basically kind of communicating the whole like you know every step of the way, whether that be like permits, grants, rebates. Like I basically have to annoy the office constantly, like, hey, like where are we at with this? Where are we at with this? This step, like where are we at with this permit? Where are we at with this grant? Where are we at with this rebate? And then I go back to the site host. I tell them like this is where we're at, and then I just keep telling them because I don't want them to annoy me. I'd rather be, like the whole goal is that we're proactive and you know on top of it as much as possible. And we also like do sales for them as well. We get locations for EV chargers. Being in the parking space now, we kind of obtained a bunch of agreements in place for a bunch of sites, and we're looking to expand on that more and more. And have about like six or seven sales agents doing that now. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the gist of Breeze. But yeah, Kevin, do you have any other questions? Any follow-ups for that?
Oh, don't worry, I got that all covered. What I find interesting is when you started as doing the scooters for
Mhm.
transportation, but then you decided to pivot into the fleet management side. I'm assuming, another reason why is because you saw a not lax, but like maybe something that wasn't going right in that field, and you also saw that there could be money made into that as well. Just going on other people that are in your space with the fleet management, was there a certain problem that you saw that you believed your abilities and with Breeze Mobility could actually facilitate and get those problems secured and solved?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it. I mean, a lot of these companies, they just want to be the brand. They don't really want to, do
Mm,
the day to day. They just want to have a nice, like, be like a cool tech company, tech startup, and they don't want to do the day to day like grunt work like we do. But kind of we had some hurdles obviously along the way. I made a bunch of mistakes that we learned from for sure. You know, I think I was a little too eager when I first started, kind of getting these contracts where we didn't have like a minimum amount of like bikes, so we did like bike maintenance for a few different like companies, and we did have a minimum amount of bikes, so kind of ended up losing a little bit of funds there, like kind of like paying my mechanics to essentially repair the bikes because there just wasn't enough volume. And yeah, like that was like one like kind of barrier that we had was essentially just yeah, not having the volume, and not having the guarantee of volume, not having a minimum. But you know, kind of learned from that, and next contract I got didn't make that same mistake.
Well, that's the biggest thing too. Personally, people are generally going to make mistakes
Mhm.
in business and life, and that's how people learn. A lot of people learn the hard way, not the easy way. But the fact is, if you make a mistake and you don't correct it the next time, that's insanity pretty much. You think you're doing the
Yeah.
same thing expecting a different result. That's not how the world works. And especially in your line of work, a lot of shortcuts are tempting, especially dealing with hardware costs, maintenance overhead, and just the pressure to scale. With that in mind, what's a principle that you have within yourself, within Breeze Mobility, that you refuse to essentially compromise, even when the growth is a little slow, a little stagnant, not where you want it to be, because you understand that these principles, these objections actually need to be set in stone in place? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, we really kind of just want to be the like labor essentially, like the hands-on kind of in the field kind of work, and then the potential like the prospected client will kind of provide all the other aspects. I saw that it just wasn't like when I had to worry about you know warehousing or like bunch of different trucks to move the scooters or bikes. It's just there's just too many like variables and too much like you know operating costs on our end, operating expense. Like so, with some of our partners, we established working out of their shop to repair bikes, which was pretty nice. I just tell like my mechanics to just show up to the site and just fix bikes. So like I said, like when we got the next contract, I didn't make that same mistake. So had the minimum, had it at their brick and mortar, and it was profitable from doing it that way. I mean, really just have to worry about the insurance aspect, and then the labor, the workforce, pretty much. That's where we're kind of where we're hyper focused is really the labor and insurance, and everything else is kind of like yeah, you guys gotta take care of all that stuff for us essentially. And we charge them like a monthly service management fee.
Given the experience and knowledge you have in micromobility and just urban transportation, what do you think is a shift that other people in that space should be looking that they might be underestimating that might be happening in 12 or 24 months?
Yeah, probably like yeah, it's probably like really like scalability. I think micromobility as a whole, like shared mobility, doesn't necessarily scale, which is why all these companies like outsource. Like I don't know if you know Bird, Ride Inc. Just DBA's Bird. They Bird USA literally went under, went bankrupt.
Mhm.
They also have like a fleet manager program. I just don't think it's very scalable, to be honest. And they put everything on the fleet manager, which is like an independent business. And even with that, they still like ended up being bankrupt because I don't think their model like literally would translate, with scalability. And a lot of had to do with I think the interchangeable battery. Um, like Bird, I don't know if to this day they're still doing it, but I think they still are. Like it's like it's just a built-in internal battery, and that's super expensive to operate essentially. Like as opposed to like just going up to a scooter or a bike, taking the battery out, bringing it to a warehouse, you know, plugging it in to charge, and then putting that new battery in. Because I look at it like it's like the 8 hour kind of like philosophy where you lose. It's like 8 hours of lost revenue. You think about like, especially in a city, like you're losing like at least 2 hours. You know, potentially 2 to 4 hours in just like going around picking up scooters, right? And then you're losing another 4 hours on charging it. So that's
Mm.
like 8 hours, right, of it not being in the field, like generating rides, generating revenue. So I think that was probably, I don't know if it is the reason, but I think it's a definitely a very big reason why Bird went bankrupt, and then Bird Canada bought Bird like USA. It's not called Bird USA, but they bought Bird USA, and I think they recovered from it a little bit. I think some like Norwegian like startup bought it as well, or something like that. Or yeah,
So it's interesting how you're kind of taking the approach to the scooters and also doing it with EVs as well. In the
yeah,
state of New Jersey, I'm aware that Governor Murphy at the time tried to mandate a law to try to get the state 100% EV by I believe it was 2032, if I'm not mistaken. This was a couple years ago, so I don't remember the exact year he tried to pinpoint that. But given with the stances, the laws surrounding EVs, how you're doing property management, installing the EVs, I just don't know, given your experience in that landscape, if you kind of see a certain shift and a lot of people may be considering electric vehicles. For me personally, I'm not a big fan of electric vehicles. One, the major reason why is I enjoy standard. I like driving a manual car, and I'm aware that, especially with EVs, there's not really such a thing that they can develop such technology as of now. And even if they could, I don't think they even would, to be quite frank with you. So, given that, I just don't know regarding the EVs if you see a certain shift in that nature as well.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely growing a little bit. I mean, it's not like where Europe is. It's not where Norway is. Like, in Norway, like the incentives are like insanely like good for EVs. Like they will literally pay you tons of money just to have an EV.
Really?
And like I think it's like they're at like 90%. Like last I checked, 90% like EV. Like there was crazy incentives just to get an EV. So everybody was like they're not as good as they used to be, but they're still very good. Definitely a lot better than the US. The US is always kind of behind in terms of like you know EV or kind of sustainability. It's always behind Europe in that aspect, but it is on its way. It's not moving super fast. I mean, there's still, yeah, like you said, like there are a lot of people that even still drive manual cars. Um, I mean, I think it's getting less. You are like the one of the rare few that likes to put work into driving a car. I mean, I personally hate it, but I mean that's cool. I like applaud you for that for sure. But yeah, I think it's definitely shifted in the right direction. Um, I mean, federally, EV like incentive program is kind of really not that great anymore since the Trump administration kind of did away with all that, which his buddy Elon Musk was very pissed about. But yeah, I mean, state level like New Jersey, New York, it's still very good. I mean, I don't think honestly they will get completely electric by 2032. That's I don't think I mean, it's a nice goal, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's that realistic, but would be nice because then that's more business for us. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, given my stance with where I am with AI and automation, it's constantly evolving every single day. What we have now could be a lot different what it is next year. What we have right now for electric vehicles could be different 2 decades from now. We just don't understand the technology that might be involved. Biggest thing that I've seen lately, it's just the process in which they extract the chemical components to make the batteries from third world countries. Because I know that that's like a biggest issue because once those batteries go out, that's what, 20, $30,000 just to replace it, given given the labor and everything. So it does add up. I see the incentives with EVs personally. Biggest concern I have, and which is what you're trying to solve, is when you go more west, especially Midwest, there's not a lot of locations where they have electric vehicle stations where you can charge. So you can't really do a great cross country road trip. I've been to Alaska a couple years ago, and I remember seeing an advertisement saying that they want to bring EVs to Alaska. And I'm thinking to myself, we're in the coldest state of the country. How are these cars going to perform the same stability as, for example, diesel vehicles? There has to be a lot of trial and errors and testing with that. And it just goes to show that like there's really a lot that goes involved with EVs, with, micro mobility, scooters. And as you mentioned with Bird, there were a lot of pinholes that they had to figure out, but they didn't figure that out. And what happened? They got bankrupt. So I feel the same has to be said with electric vehicles because if something does happen the next 5, 10 years that does put a lot of pinholes, it could tarnish the whole thing. I'm not saying it's going to tarnish it completely, but there'd be a lot of funds, grants, that will just be wasted for what? And Elon would be pretty upset with that, especially.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely is not like super like yeah, it's not like everything. It's not like so connected throughout the country. Unfortunately, each state has its own incentives. A lot of the Midwest tend to have like not such great incentives. So building the infrastructure, it can be very costly because these, unless you're Tesla or maybe like ChargePoint, you're not gonna, you're probably not gonna build EV chargers there because of it. Which people are on the fence to even get an EV because of it, because the infrastructure is not quite there yet. And even like the amount of power that goes into these like DC fast chargers, I mean, it's not quite enough. I mean, it's only it could take like 45 minutes to charge a car if you do a DC fast charger. It'd be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I've seen like an hour for a Tesla. Um, so it's not the technology's not there yet, but it's definitely heading in the right direction. It's just going like extremely slow, in my opinion. But I think in due time it will get there. I just don't know how quick. 2032, I think is very very optimistic. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it'll be cool, like I said, but I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful, and with this opportunity, bringing EV chargers like to multiple locations around the country. That's like part of the goal. I mean, I'm not going to say that I can execute on 300 um, charging stations throughout the entire northern part of the country. So if you wanted to drive from Cranford all the way to Anchorage, like yeah, definitely kind of difficult right now. But you know, I think in due time, if more people start flipping on to going green, then it'll definitely happen sooner for sure.
I agree. Time will tell, especially with this kind of topic. I've had a lot of CEOs and founders on the show, and almost every growth challenge boils down to two separate things: sales, lead gen, or fulfillment and delivery. If you could fix one thing within your organization right now, whether that be lead gen related or operational related, what would you fix going into 2026 to kind of future proof your operations?
Yeah, I think it has to be probably mostly lead generation. I mean, operations definitely when we first started was you know big hurdles and stuff, and a lot of mistakes happened to kind of figure out what we did wrong and how to adjust and how to do it better. But yeah, now the whole thing is like we got a pretty good base, got a pretty good amount of business, but it's just scaling it up and more rapidly. So yeah, like lead generation is definitely what I'm going to be hyper focused on for this year for sure. Which is why like I was bringing on a few partners, a few agencies to help out with some lead generation.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, the biggest thing to grow the business is actually just do lead generation. That's what a lot of people generally do. There's a lot of companies in your similar stance that just tries to get everything perfect before launching to the masses. But essentially, you're not going to go anywhere if you just pick it apart every single day. How's that going to
Mhm.
help you? How exactly are you getting those customers? Because whether we like it or not, there will be mistakes, as we mentioned before. There will be mistakes, hurdles, and challenges along the way. But if you just wait until the perfect moment comes to arise to then produce your lead generation out to your targeted ICP, what's going to happen? You waited too long for other people who weren't as perfect, but they knew the way to grow their company, to grow where they want to be, was to acquire as much consumers as possible, whether it's property managers or, other individuals who are higher up that could relay such technology on their campuses, urban areas. There's a lot that goes into it, and it is quite hard, especially hitting those certain people. You either got to go in person or you got to target them in certain ways. Some might be ideal, some might not be as ideal in terms of like the strategy. But essentially, if you get a foot in their door, does it really matter? In all certainty.
Yeah, I mean, um, I've had to go get rejected a lot.
Hmm.
Um, we met on like LinkedIn, and I've made some pretty good connections there, but also, have a lot of definitely more people ghosted me than actually talk to me. So that was a big hurdle to kind of cross and get over. But it's kind of like you get thicker skin as you go along. It's like
Hmm.
when I first started the company, like I just wasn't going to take no for an answer. I was going to keep going constantly. I was just like, I'm not going to wait for that perfect moment. You just got to go and attack, and then you hope for the best, right? And then right time, right place. That does happen, but you can't wait for that moment, right? You gotta just go for it, and then if it might just like collide and like fall right in your lap, but that's because you were grinding, you had activity, you were doing day to day like kind of outreach, like whatever, LinkedIn or cold calling, emailing, whatever. Like that's crucial, especially when you're first starting out. You can't just you know uh, put an idea together and just like try to perfect it and just wait months and months and years, and then you don't execute. You got to just go out and then make mistakes and learn from it, essentially.
I agree, especially with what you're trying to accomplish this year. It's all a numbers game if you think about it.
Mhm.
The more people you try to hit, the better success. But if you're focused on just like certain aspects, certain manual processes, it does sometimes get the fruit you need to bear, but it does take a little longer. So, I mean, there's so many different strategies that people use now, especially for lead generation. Before we wrap up here, Sean, I always enjoy asking this question. What's one habit or belief that you practice in your day to day that has allowed you to succeed and get where you are right now, not only in your professional development, but also in your personal life as well?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I kind of like blending the two together, but I really love traveling. Um, not to sound like cliche or generic, but it that is a big motivation for me. I mean, I've been to 46 countries. Only continent I haven't been to is Antarctica. So kind of blending the two together. That's the best for me is when I like kind of travel for work or like I went to Amsterdam in August of last year. Um and this guy like added me on LinkedIn. He's in like the mobility space, battery swapping to be exact. And like we met up in Amsterdam, made a pretty good connection there. We're talking about like kind of partnering in the States. Uh, and hopefully that you know turns into something. But only time will tell. We do keep in close contact pretty frequently, and I'm going to basically try to help this guy like run operations in the states for him. Hopefully at some point.
That's beautiful, and it really shows the work-life balance you have, and even when you're traveling, you're still acquiring new assets, new individuals to connect with. I find that pretty beautiful. There's a lot of people, and I'm at fault for this as well, where they focus a lot of time in their business, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but there is crucial need for a work-life balance. Go for a walk for 30 minutes, go to the gym for an hour. Like, there's certain activities that you should do for yourself during the day, and the business will still run. That's the biggest thing.
Mhm.
If you have a lean team where you don't need to be in the day to day and you still get the results that you are looking for, that's all that matters, even if you're not there. Because they're allowing you to see that they don't need you every single day. They can rely on themselves, the systems, the frameworks that they have in place.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest thing. For anyone who's listening or watching this, what's the best place for them to either reach out to you or to Breeze Mobility?
Yeah, I mean, you can reach out to my email, which is Sean at breezemobility.bike, or you can reach out to us on our website, which is www.breezemobility.bike. And there's like a contact us. You can just reach out to that. You know, if you have any inquiries, you want to just talk, you want to do business together, whatever it is, you just hit me up. I'm always available.